In this video, I'm going to go over three different ways to kind of divvy up your data set or otherwise sort or filter your data set. This will become important for future sections and future problems. There's multiple ways to do this. And I think the best way is to sort of conceptualize this as a problem that you're trying to solve. And let's say the problem is you want to obtain the mean or the average for only psychology students. So let's go ahead and go to the data set and just kind of look at this problem. So say we want to obtain the mean of extroversion, which is represented here in column B. If we kind of want to look at all up to this point, we've dealt with the mean of the entire kind of sample, so across all persons. If we wanted to look at just psychology students, we can see that they're all sort of jumbled up here over here in this undergrad major, so they're not ordered over here. So what we want to do is create some sort of order so that we can just obtain the mean of just the psychology students. So first what we're going to do is we're going to copy the data set. As you can see, the data's got this little lock button. If you recall, that's so that I can't go in here and easily change values. And I'm just going to create going to duplicate the data set. So now we have, and we're going to rename it. And we're going to say, we'll call this data 2. Yeah, we'll just call it lowercase data 2. And so now this is not locked, it's just a copy of the original data set. So now what we're going to do is if we go back to kind of our overview slide for this video, the first option we can do is to sort, a sort option. There's two other options. One is use the stats add-on filter option, which I'll go over later, and then the filter function. And these other two options involve a bit of, you can think of this as spreadsheet coding, and this is kind of highlighted in the gold here, and we'll go over this. And you know, if we think about these three different ways for kind of sorting, or what I call subsetting the data, they kind of go from easy to hard. So the easiest way is just to sort the data. Harder ways involve these kind of using these codes, and I'll go into exactly how we do this. So let's go over back to the data set. We're just going to sort. So what we want to do is obtain the mean of extroversion over here in this data set. So we're going to go over here to undergrad major. We're going to click on this column. You can see that now there's this little downward arrow. I'm going to left click on that downward arrow, and all these options are going to come up. I'm going to slide down to sort sheet A to Z, and we'll click on this. And now all the undergrad majors are sorted by their alphabetically by their name. And see, we can see here that psychology is all lumped together. And more importantly, if we look at the order of the entire spreadsheet, we can see it's all jumbled up. So it didn't just order this column, it ordered the entire spreadsheet based on this column. Because we can see now that the order of the persons, which was ordered from from lowest to highest, is now kind of jumbled up. So we'll go over here. And so what we wanted to do is obtain the mean of extroversion for psychology. So we can kind of get, so we can see that psychology really starts over here at row 48, or person number 4. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to go down here. We're not going to, actually, we're going to just go down here, and we'll just do this within the data spreadsheet, even though in the previous video I said don't do this. I'm just doing this for demonstration, for simplicity. We can type mean. This is just of psychology. We get in equal, we're going to go average. We don't want the entire range as the default setup, so we're going to delete that. We're going to close this little help box. We're going to go all the way up to where we know that psychology begins. We're going to pull down while holding the left button, release. And then we're going to close the brackets by hitting shift and closing the parentheses. And we get a value of 61.93. So that is the average, or the mean, of extroversion for just psychology students. So that's the easiest way. There's no kind of coding involved to do that. And you don't have to do just necessarily the mean. We could also do the standard deviation the same way. We'll just pull down from here, select all the cells, close it off, we get a standard deviation of 10.64. So as opposed to getting the mean or the standard deviation for the entire sample or all the observations, now we're just getting it for a subset of just psychology majors. Now, we may want to, this is helpful for just getting kind of some basic descriptive statistics, but there's some advanced ways that can be helpful as well, and I want to show you those now. So the first way is to use the stats add-on filter option. So this is the first time we're going to be coding kind of some more complex functions in Google Sheets. So this statement here equals if is the start of a logical statement. A logical statement is a statement that has like something like an equal sign or a greater than or a not equal sign. These are what are called logical operators. They're sometimes you've seen them in search functions, but it's basically what this is saying is does this sort of let's actually delete the data. This part right here specifies the name of the spreadsheet, and this is the column, and this is the row. So does in spreadsheet data M2, which is the column of undergrad majors, this is the column of undergrad majors, equal psychology. Now you have to put these your text in quotations, otherwise you'll get an error. So anytime you're using text, numbers do not have to be in quotations because they're treated as numeric, but all text has to be in these quotations is here. So you specify that, and then you specify in this, the next argument, the arguments are separated by commas. You say what happens if this is true, then you're going to write true here so that it'll print out a true true result, and false here. Now this is not doesn't have to be in quotations because it's what's called a logical operator. Logical operator just means basically true or false. If you wanted to just say yes here, instead you would have to type in yes in quotation marks and no. It's best to use logical operators because, well, you can only use logical operators for this or true-false commands for the filter option using the stats add-on package. So, all right. So I kind of showed you how the basic template of the function we're gonna function we're gonna write in Google Sheets. So let's go over to Google Sheets and just see how this actually plays out. So we're gonna delete our previous work here, and we're gonna scroll all the way to the right, and we're gonna go up here, and we're just gonna type filter and then psych. So this is going to be a new variable that we're creating. That's why we've added it to a new column. We're going to type equals, just like the start of the function. We're going to type if, and then we're going to start the parentheses. And now we're going to go all the way over here. Now, because we're working in the same spreadsheet, we don't need to call the actual name of the spreadsheet. So we can just click here and we get M2. We can hit comma, or actually not comma, we're going to hit equal signs. We're going to say, does this cell, this orange cell, equal, we're going to type psychology. And now we're going to type true after we put a little comma, and then we're going to put another comma and type false. We're going to close that with another parentheses, and we're going to hit enter. And so this, now it's returning this result of false because it's checking basically this cell and saying, does this equal to psychology? And it's going, no, that's false. So now we're just going to left click, drag down. So we're going to drag this function down. So now if we double click, it's pulling M3 and not M2. So it moves relative, it checks the cell relative to where we just copied the function. So we're going to pull it all the way down. And look what we have here. So all these psychology majors now are represented by true. Now notice that if I misspell psychology here, if I spell it with a lowercase p, well, maybe it looks like caps doesn't, but if I maybe take away the p, I get a false. So how you spell things is very important because it determines, you need to make sure that your spelling is exact and precise. All right, so that's the first step. If we go back to our step one is to use this kind of function to determine, and we didn't need to specify the spreadsheet, so I'll just remove that. To create a new variable that has true and false values associated with each cell, so that we identify which it's basically identifying which rows have psychology majors in them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our stats add-on package, so statistics. We're going to go to describe data, and as that pops up, we're going to say add variable. And we're going to say we want to look at extroversion. We're going to hit OK. And then we're going to, sorry about my phone beeping. I'm going to silence that. 1 second. All right. And then we're going to go down here, filter, and we're going to scroll. Well, one thing we should notice is that this is pulling from our original data set. So we don't get this new variable that we created here. So let's go back up and we're going to select data 2 and select all the cells A1 through Q61. So we're going to select that one. All right, now we need to reselect our variable. We're going to extroversion. And now this thing where it says filter, we're going to click filter. We're going to say filter psych. We want the histogram, density, box plot. Let's actually just give us a box plot. We don't want these other things for now. Say create. And we get our mean of 61.929, which was equivalent to what we found earlier. We get a standard deviation, tells us the number of observations, and we get a nice box plot for that one alone. Now, you might be saying, Eric, well, what if we just remove this filter? What do we get? As we know, we just add. Another quick way to do this, it doesn't involve using that filter function, is to just go down here and just say by undergrad major. If we click on this and we say create, now our new plot will give us each major separated. It'll give us a box plot, but it'll do it in comparison. And we get the right here, the mean and standard deviation for just psychology majors, the number of observations as well. We also get calculated the standard error. We should know what that means, which is the standard deviation divided by the square root of the number of observations. We get our standard error. And look at this, we get a lower and upper bounds of a 95% confidence interval. So note that you're getting some of the information that you're going to be asked for, and some of the questions regarding this section, you can use this describe data and this by function. But as I'll show you later in this video, if you want to compare just 2 groups and not all 4 groups, which you're going to have to do later on in future videos, you may want to use the filter function as I described it, and I'll show you an advanced way to do that. All right, now I'm going to show you the hardest way, and involves the most amount of kind of coding, is this way right here. So let's go back. So we're going to use this filter function, and basically we use the average function. Now what we're seeing here is we're actually wrapping functions. So you can put, when you say wrapping a function, you have a function here and it's wrapped around this filter function here. So our average function is kind of around our filter function. So we're using 2 functions at once. So our average is wrapped around filter, and in this filter, we're calling, again, the spreadsheet data exclamation point. We're calling column B, which is our extra version, and then we're saying, look at column M and only look at the ones where there's psychology majors. So let's go and see this actually in action. Again, this is a bit harder. It's probably a little more advanced. You don't have to do it this way to subset your data. So, and actually, I want to show you how to disorganize. So we've organized everything by undergrad major, but if we want to put it back in the original order, we're going to click on column A here, and we're going to go up to this arrow, left click, and we're going to say sort sheet A to Z. A to Z is just going to be numerically from lowest to highest. Okay, so now we're all disorganized. If we go back over to undergrad major, we can see that psychology is all mixed up with the other majors. All right, so I'm not going to do this on a separate spreadsheet. I'm just going to go over here to the right, and we're going to say mean, we're going to say average. We'll say average. Let's use mean psychology extroversion. All right, so we're going to get that value here. So we're going to say equals, and we're going to remember we're going to use the average function to get the mean, and we're going to, so we've specified that. Now we're going to type filter, because that's inside the average function. We'll put another parentheses, and now we're going to select the column that we want to actually, where the data is at. So we're going to select extroversion again. We'll just keep using extroversion. I know it's kind of boring, but now we're going to hit comma, and now we're going to select the column which we want to filter by, which is undergrad major, which is M. And we're going to say, does M equal, got to use those quotations, psychology, capital P, psychology, end quotations. Now we need to end, because we have two brackets here, we need to end with two brackets. So right click, or excuse me, shift 0 twice for those two brackets. We're going to hit enter, and we get a mean of 62. That's rounded, so if we add a couple decimal points, we get 61.93 rounded to the 100th. So that's the mean for extroversion, and that's using, you can see up here, this code right here, which is just the code that accomplishes what's in this cell. So you can always look at the code up here, and then you can look at the results down here of the functions. That's what the purpose of this sort of bar that I'm highlighting up here at the top of the spreadsheet is. All right, so that's another way to get a to get a mean value. If we were just working in if we were creating a summary of based on this in a different spreadsheet, we can, based on this spreadsheet, what we can do is we can go up here to select all this code. We can copy it by right clicking. Then we can go over here to our summary spreadsheet. We can just go over to a cell, and we're going to go up here to this kind of where we put our code in. We're just going to paste. And notice what it's trying to do is pull from the columns on this actual spreadsheet. So let's actually go here and type in the actual spreadsheet that we want. We want data 2. We need to specify that with an exclamation point. You notice how the orange column disappeared. We'll go over here to M, left click, data 2, exclamation point. We'll hit enter, and we get that same value, 62 rounded, 61.93 for the mean extroversion for psychology majors. All right. So let's go back to our data set. Let's delete this. Now let's go back to the advanced. So I've shown you the first 3 ways to kind of sort or subset your data. Starting with the easy to sort function. We can use the stats add-on filter option, and then just the filter function itself. Now what I want to show you is using the stats add-on function. I want to filter by two different undergrad majors. So in this case, we want to obtain the means for psychology students and other science degree majors. And when you want to use this using the stats add-on, so we get a comparison of just these two groups. When we talk later in this chapter, we're going to be talking about multiple comparisons. And then this is a case where you're going to want to use, if you just want to look at a single comparison amongst a lot of different possible comparisons, you're going to want to use this way of filtering or subsetting your data in order to do that. So let's go back over to the data. Now we're going to say, we're going to create a new filter function. Let's just actually go back to this and look at this function. Here we have an if statement that's wrapped around an or statement. An or statement basically is a logical statement that we give it two different logical statements. So data, in this case, let's just remove these data because it kind of clogs things up. We don't actually need those. So this is saying if wrapped around or. So does M2 or column, which is the undergrad majors, row 2 equals psychology. Then there's a little comma here to separate this and the other logical statement. And basically this is saying or does M2 equal other science degree. You close that out for the brackets there, and then you put in true and false, the two options. The first option is what is the result if this is true, and you're just saying it's true. Second is what is the option if it's false, and you're just saying it's false. All right, so let's go put this into practice. Let's go back to our data. So we're going to create a new, we're say filter psych or other psi. The name of this variable, and we're going to go click on this cell, on the very top cell or row number 2. We're going to say equals. Remember, we start with if, put a parentheses, and you say, we're saying if, and then we're going right to or, so we're typing or, and we're hitting comma, and now we're going to specify our undergrad major column. We'll just say M equals, and we're going to say equals psychology, and the quotations, comma. Now the comma is basically acting like the or. Does column M equal psychology, or does column M equal other? So you have to make sure you spell it just right, degree, and quotations. Now we need to close off this or statement with the parentheses. Then we're going to hit a comma, and we're going to say true, false, and we're going to end with the final parentheses. That's our entire statement. And we get a false, because this is saying no major declared. So no major declared is neither psychology or other science degree, so it's giving us the result of false. If we pull left click on the bottom right corner, drag down, you can see that now we're getting other science degree is clicking over and saying true, and psychology is saying true. So let's just pull this down so this variable accounts for every observation in our data set, and now we've created that variable. Now let's go over to add-ons, statistics, describe data. We're going to click here, add variable. We're looking at extroversion. And we don't want to, we could click by as I showed you in the previous, but we want to use filter. And now we're just going to say filter psych or other side. We'll click on that. Let's just give us a box plot, not these other things. We'll tick off those other boxes. And we're going to hit create here. All right, so what this did here is this gave us the mean of basically extroversion and extroversion for the combined psych and other science degree. If we wanted to have two box plots, we would just go over here to by undergrad major. So now we have extroversion by undergrad major. We're filtering only psych and other science degree. And let's go create. And now we'll just get the two box plots next to each other, and our means and standard deviations and confidence intervals, which are all in this table, um, 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 are only correspond to the other science degree in psychology. So that is the more advanced option. So in this video, this is a really important kind of skill set to learn. You won't need it for every question that we're going to be doing in the subsequent areas, but it will be something that may come up for some of the questions. So I've shown you a number of different ways to accomplish this. Spend some time learning these different ways. I would say if I'm just going to spend, anytime I'd work on the sort and the stats add-on using that filter option, and try to do this advanced stats add-on filter where you're using the actual or statement here. Pay attention to the code that I use. You have to be super precise. This is like if you've ever done computer programming, it's the same way. You can't put in the wrong things and expect to get the right result. So ask questions to the forum if you are experiencing difficulty with the content we covered in this video.